Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. In today's episode, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you feel versus how you look. Just the mindset and the framing around that. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is I noticed something for myself as my training routine has changed and just kind of the approach I'm taking in general. Being in the pursuit of acting, uh, I've now, I would say, gotten more mindful about how I look for obvious reasons, because I think you do need to maintain yourself to a certain degree. And I think there's a positive side to it, which is you want to be healthy, you want to be fit, whatever that is for you. Um, and you want to look presentable in a way that you're satisfied with, right? And so accordingly, I've taken much more of a calculated approach to my fitness regimen and routine. Um, But over the course of the past few years, especially just throughout the pandemic, I've tried a whole host of different things in terms of diets and workout regimens. And I'll speak on the diets, and I definitely want to speak on the diets in a different episode. But ultimately, there was a point where I really liked how I looked, and a lot of that came to how I was eating, not what I was doing as far as fitness goes or exercise goes. Primarily, what I did was cardio. I just walked a lot. And I think my friends and I, we did this sort of walking competition or challenge. And I did fairly well because I got into a routine where this was when I was staying with my family, and I would go on these long walks with my mom around our house. Or our house has this area where you can do a very nice square or rectangular walk, a route. And if you do that twice, which we usually used to do, you hit close to around 8 to 9,000 steps. And I got to a point where I was doing that twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, night. So you're racking up about 16,000 steps, which is quite a bit of cardio. And I started leaning out really nicely. And if I'm being honest, I really loved how I looked because I had that lean physique. Um, my face had sort of sunk in a bit more and was looking toned and lean. And I mean, I guess I don't think I've ever considered myself to be a thin guy or a lean guy. I chubby as a kid, I would say, in my younger years, and then just bulky, I guess, to a certain degree, because I always did have some kind of muscle tone. But with this approach, I started latching onto that. Oh, I like how I look, and so I kept doing the thing. But I also noticed that eventually I had to shift out of that diet and that sort of pattern of exercise or working out, because there were just other things I needed to focus on. And the thing with that is you get into this trap of really being focused on how you look. And I've now started shifting my approach much more to something that I feel is more sustainable for myself. And not necessarily because I love it. I'm starting to learn to love it for sure, but I'm taking more of a logical approach to doing what I know is going to make me feel better, and it is good for me and beneficial for me, not just in the short term, but in the long term, in a more persistent and consistent basis. So, um, this look how I or this look I achieved was, I would say, around 2021. Yeah, and yo-yoing up and down of just eating more of the things that I want to eat, and then dieting down or whatever, and just going up and down, and I've now leveled out to a point where my primary mode or medium of working out is weight training. and trying to slot in whatever cardio I can in between. Um, just to balance things out, and also just to aid in some fat loss and things like that. And the hesitation I always have with weight training for myself, and it's not that I haven't weight trained before. I've done it on and off, I think, since my high school days. Um, but I always, or I don't always like how I look physically and in my face when I weight train. And simply because you do tend to put on a little bit of bulk. Um, you eat a carbohydrate, not even a carbohydrate focused diet, but you eat a diet that has carbohydrates, you will retain some water because carbohydrates hold water in your body. That's just how that works. Whereas protein and fat do not. Um, and so you can weight train without carbohydrates, but it really is much more easier, and I feel beneficial when you train with some level of carbohydrates because you have the immediate fuel source of glucose and glycogen, to use as energy when you're working out. And in the beginning phases of this year, when I was getting much more into the regimen of working out, I was looking at myself and I'm like, man, I don't like how I look. I'm bulky, my face looks a little fuller, whatever, blah blah blah. But I think just slowly putting in the work and doing the things, I've gotten to the point, and I'm getting to the point. I think it's definitely a work in progress and a journey. Is I'm now more focused on how I feel as opposed to how I look, because I don't look bad. I look good, but your mind messes with you because you see that version of yourself, or you saw that version of yourself, and you think that's exactly what I want. That's great, and that's fine. But if it's not sustainable, and if it's not practical, and if it's maddening to get there and even more ridiculous to stay there, it's probably not going to be very practical or beneficial for you to strive for that, right? And with working out, the best part about it now I find is I'm able to eat a much more balanced diet. I am able to have a little bit of carbs, a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat, and I do tend to eat more on the protein and fat side of things anyway. But there's a certain kind of fullness and you know a sense of completion I feel when I get to eat all three food groups. So that's something that I found interesting, because before, what I was trying to do was almost game the system in a way where I knew what I needed to do to lean out and do all these things. And I leaned out, but I didn't lose a ton of fat. I lost a little fat for sure. I lost a lot of water, and my body pared down. So my muscles that were bigger just slowly toned themselves down. They didn't atrophy as such, but your body basically uses your muscles and keeps your muscles to the size and the strength that you expect of it and demand of it, right? You are as strong and as big as you apply your body for it to meet any and all those needs. So the moment I started going into the sort of cardio focused approach, my body was like, okay, well, you don't need a lot of muscle. You're not lifting a lot of stuff. You're not pushing a lot of stuff. You don't need a terrible amount of strength. What you do need is your cardiovascular system to be more attuned. And your body actually it's costing a lot of energy and effort to carry around your muscles when you're trying to clearly lean out, in terms of, like, you're not trying to lift things. So we're going to start paring your muscles down. So that's essentially what happened. So that leanness, that look was nice, quote unquote, from a just a look perspective, but not the best in terms of health and wellness. And so now that I'm starting to be more balanced about my approach to fitness and health, I realized It's very easy to fall into that trap of getting kind of obsessed with how you look. But if you're doing the right things in terms of eating clean, eating healthy, um, working out, all the pieces that you can play with, then you kind of have to get to that point to say, you know what, I look how I look, but I feel great. If you do feel great, hopefully you do, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you feel great, you need to sort of make peace with the fact that, you know what, I know I maybe want to look like how I used to look like, but you gotta appreciate the fact that this is what your body is. This is who you are, and it's great because if the byproduct of doing all the right things is this is how you look, I mean, you kind of have to learn to love that, I guess, because you can try and strive for that version of yourself that you are more a fan of, but if that doesn't make much sense from a long-term perspective, a sustainability, a practicality perspective, you're kind of you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not getting the most out of what you can in terms of your health and life. And I've been, I mean, I've done this all. My friends know how restrictive I get sometimes when we even go out in terms of, the things I'm trying to eat and whatever. And I mean, there are points where, yes, if you're working towards a very short term goal, you're trying to get fit for, I mean, whatever it may be, if it's a photo shoot or a competition or a role for an act or whatever, there are situations where, of course, you need to focus and try and do something because you're looking to achieve a very specific goal. But beyond that, I think it doesn't serve you well to try and focus on the look that you're trying to sort of achieve. It's a much better approach, at least for me, I feel, is focus on how you feel. Do you feel healthy? Do you feel good? Do you feel energetic? Do you feel strong? Do you feel all sort of the classic signals and signs? Do you feel all those things that one would feel if you're eating healthy, your weight training, or you're working out or whatever, but you're doing the right things and you're feeling good? Focus on that. Don't focus too much on how you look, right? Even for myself, I it's easy for me to get in that trap of being like, I wish my face was a little leaner, or I mean, obviously, again, maybe this is a bit not narcissistic, but a bit typical to say that, of course I want to look really shredded or peeled or whatever, but you kind of get to this level where you start really understanding health and wellness and fitness, and that level that is marketed heavily is very unsustainable. Most of these people, except for the rare few who have a combination of brilliant genetics, brilliant work ethic, and some people are supplementing with uh, steroids and other enhancing products. Which, hey, I mean, do you? But if you want to try and live a normal life in terms of just working out, eating healthy, you're not gonna likely look that lean, that shredded, that peeled. And the other aspect, as far as looking that way, and this is again me just finding out more as I'm getting more into just the health aspect of things. Your hormones take a serious tank, like they tank hard. They take a very big dip, and that ties directly into your mood, into your sleep, every aspect of your life. So you need to be mindful about what it is that you're trying to do and why, and what you're trying to get out of it, because if it's not something that you're trying to do and keep doing, it's it's not really practical and it doesn't make much sense, and you just end up feeling like shit because you ultimately feel like if you don't get there, you're always like, I'm never there. And if you're not, you know, able to balance it out to be like, okay, well, I'm able to live my life and work towards something, it starts getting all, it becomes a bit hectic in your mind, and easy to get kind of down on yourself, right? In a nutshell, do the right things in terms of health and wellness, and focus on how you feel as opposed to how you look as much, right? Find that balance where you're kind of working on yourself, and you have some targets for yourself, but focus more on the wellness aspect as opposed to the aesthetics, if, in terms of that balance, right? Maybe it's like a wellness is like a 70, aesthetics is a 30, or whatever it is for you. All right. Well, that's really all I wanted to talk about. Um, if you're listening, thank you. Hope this was helpful. Hope this was, something that maybe might have crossed your head and was informational in a way. Until the next time, take care, and I'll catch you on the next one.